What's up, YouTube? It's your boy John from Project Ellsworth, and I am back with you today to show you guys another section of my horror movie collection. Today we are doing row 3, section 14, which is this guy right here. I'll get them things pulled and I will show you what I have. I hope you guys are all doing well and staying safe. All right, so the last one of these videos I did, I ended at row 3, section 9, but I have since shifted my entire DVD collection so that I could better accommodate new movies when I buy them. That's why if you're watching this the first time, this makes no difference to you. But if you've been watching this series on my channel, that's why I jumped from row 3, section 9 to row 3, section 14, just because I spread everything out a little bit. If you see, there's little gaps in every single section here, and this big gap is where the one I'm getting ready to go over actually came from. That is probably more of an explanation than you need. And away we go. So the first thing I have here is Lake Dead from the After Dark Horror Collection. These movies were all pretty good. I'm pretty sure I watched this one. I have every DVD from the After Dark, the 8 Films to Die For. They did, I think, 4 seasons of that or 4 series of that. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it was 4. Have them all. Watched less than half of them, but I think I watched this one. 3 beautiful sisters learn of a long-lost grandfather, but only make this discovery upon the news of his grisly death. Enticed to visit Grandpa's old home after hearing of an inheritance, the sisters head to the back country with some friends. Oh my goodness God. The sisters head to the back country with friends. We quickly follow the group of friends through the gates of a redneck-infested hell. The psychotic family occupying the inherited property goes on a long-awaited and much-enjoyed killing spree. As the family's twisted motives unravel, the sisters discover a terror worse than death. The way this is starting off, I might be better off not reading any of these, but moving on. All right, next up is, I bought these next 2 movies at Dollar Tree, and it's actually kind of already bothered me, having realized that I now have Lake Fear 2 and Lake Fear 3, but I don't have Lake Fear. And as somebody who has OCD, that's kind of driving me crazy. So, let's go. Lake Fear 2. Drink, tan, run for your life. For one unlucky group of thrill-seeking spring breakers, their adventure leads to the black waters of the Florida Everglades, a place with tens of thousands of flesh-ripping alligators. It's gross. Beyond the scope of the traditional predator is another phenomenon, one with 2 legs and an insatiable thirst for killing. Sounds pretty cool, and I think it even looks cooler than it sounds. So maybe one day I will get into this. I don't know. I have trouble with this stuff because I don't have the first one. Something tells me that I could probably watch any of these 3 movies without watching the first one, or in any order, or I could watch them 2, 3, 1, or 1, 3, 2, and it probably wouldn't make any difference. Lake Fear 3, I don't feel like reading it. Next up, Lake Mungo. You know what? This is the one I think that I watched from the After Dark Horror Fest. Yeah, After Dark for Horror Fest 4. I was right. There were 4 of them. All right. At Lake Mungo, 16-year-old Alice Palmer drowns while swimming at the local dam. Damn it. So corny. When her body is recovered and the verdict of accidental death returned, her grieving family buries her. That's how it usually works. The family then experiences a series of strange and inexplainable events centered in and around their home. Profoundly unsettled, the Palmers seek the help of psychic and parapsychologist Ray Kemery. That's a big ass word early in the morning. Can't focus. I'm not up to that yet. Ray discovers that Alice led a secret double life. A series of clues leads the family to Lake Mungo, where Alice's secret past emerges. I love that they tell you that they buried her dead body. All right, next up, Lake Placid. Love Lake Placid. This is just a fun movie. What's it, Bill Pullman? Is that it? Bill Pullman, is he the one that's in this movie? Blah, 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 blah. I know it ain't Paxton. Paxton's the one that passed away. Bill Pullman, yep. Bill Pullman, Bridget Fonda, and if I'm not mistaken, isn't this the flick that's got the guy who was in 28 Days Later? His last name is Gleason, and he was also the star of the series Mr. Mercedes. Can't remember what his first name was. Last name is Gleason. I think this is the first time I ever saw him. Giant alligator in a lake. That's what the movie's about. Really, really good. Next up, Lake Placid 2. You know what this one's about? Another giant alligator in a lake. All right, next up, Land of the Dead. George Romero movie. I think this is the one that was the return. He had Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and then he went many years without any dead movies, and I believe this one was the one that was the return to that series. I saw this in the movie theater, actually. This is a pretty cool flick. John Leguizamo. Packed with more heart-pounding and blood-curdling thrills than any theater could show, this special unrated director's cut unleashes the ultimate vision of George A. Romero's latest Living Dead shock fest, starring Simon Baker, Dennis Hopper, and John Leguizamo. Forgot Dennis Hopper was in this movie. Land of the Dead finds humanity's last remnants battling to survive the unspeakable truth, the ravenous zombie hordes besieging their fortified city are evolving. All right. Pretty good. Land of the Dead is pretty good. I don't prefer it over night, dawn, or day, but it is pretty good. I definitely like it more than Diary of the Dead or Survival of the Dead. Land of the Dead is definitely better than those movies are, obviously, in my opinion. Next up, The Last Exorcism. I enjoyed this movie. The first time, I remember when this came out in theaters, all of the hype around this movie, it looked genuinely pretty scary. I then watched it, and I didn't find it particularly scary, but I did find it particularly good. I thought it was really good. It was different. Basically, this chick is possessed, and her family asks for a priest, or actually, this guy more or less is he's one of those evangelist type scumbag dudes. His name was something Cotton or Cotton something. The hell was his name? After years of eliciting money from desperate believers, charismatic preacher Reverend Cotton Marcus, that's it, I knew it was Cotton something. Cotton Marcus decides to reveal his fraudulence by documenting one last exorcism performed on another disturbed religious fanatic. But after he and his film crew arrive at the Sweetser farm, Marcus encounters a horrific scene beyond his wildest imagination. A blood-drenched farmhouse with a teenage girl held in the grip of true evil. Now Marcus must find a way to save the girl and stop the terror or die trying. This was a cool movie. I enjoyed this quite a bit, actually. It wasn't what I thought it was, I'll put it that way. I didn't find it particularly scary. This is bothering me. There were certain parts, and this is why my hair is pulled back all the time. There are certain parts of this movie that were genuinely creepy, but I never really found this to be scary. I think after you grew up watching The Exorcist, anything with exorcist, exorcism, exercise, existential in the title is going. you already know going in you're not going to like it as much as The Exorcist. The Exorcist is like the crown jewel of exorcism movies. The only one that I can think of off the top of my head, I'm getting way off the beaten path here. The only one I've ever found off the top of my head that I thought was really friggin' creepy and scary, that was an exorcism type movie, was The Possession of Michael King. Was pretty damn outstanding. All right, so there's that one. Then there is The Last Exorcism Part 2. Same chick, bent over backwards, whatever. I do not feel like reading all this. I thought this one was okay. I don't remember it as well as I remember the original. I remember the ending of this movie more than anything else, believe it or not. This movie was all right. I'll leave it at that. Memorable ending for me. All right, next up, The Last Horror Movie. I did watch this movie when I first got it. I want to say I bought this movie. There was a video store, a video rental store, like those things used to exist. Well, yeah, they did. I don't even know what I was trying to get across there. They don't exist anymore, and not too long ago, well, probably about a decade ago, there was one around here called Orbit Video, and they were going out of business, and I got this movie for next to nothing, if this came from there, and I think that it did. 2003, yeah, I'm pretty sure it did. Max is a wedding photographer who uses his video camera to moonlight as a serial killer. With the aid of a homeless assistant, he documents his work in the form of a video diary. Max is a charismatic assassin, pardon me, confronting his audience with the mind of a homicidal maniac. But when he realizes his audience is becoming horrified at the brutality on display, he poses a killer question. Why are you still watching? The answer is simple enough. You know you shouldn't be, and that's exactly why you are. This was pretty cool. It's been a long time since I've watched this too, but I do remember this movie being pretty cool. And as you can see, there's a little bit of brutality going on in this flick. I enjoyed it. That's your guy right there. This was pretty cool. If you come across this movie anywhere, check it out. It's pretty neat. Next up, The Last House in the Woods. I'd like to see a neighborhood with the last house on the left and the last house in the woods and the last house by the cemetery and the last house at the end of the street, all the last houses. So you'd have like a whole bunch of houses or a bunch of roads, like it'd be one hell of an intersection with one house on each one. Well, 2 or 3 houses on each of them. That way one house could be the last one on each street. Silly. All right, young lovers escape a group of bullies seeking to harm them and then take refuge with a seemingly kind older couple. All too late, we discover that this older pair has a dark hidden secret which unfolds in the quiet, secluded last house in the woods. There's so many movies that do this. People get chased and they seek refuge with a family that they think that they can trust, and they just can't trust them. Hence movies like that. All right, here, more last houses. The last house, what is this one? The Last House on Cemetery Lane. I don't know that I'd want to live on Cemetery Lane, because even though I don't believe in ghosts and shit getting up and walking out of the ground or anything like that, there's a lot of goofballs out there that probably do. And if there's a road called Cemetery Lane and there's a cemetery there, it's got to be a cemetery there, right? It's probably a lane that leads to a cemetery, and this movie is about that house. Like, wouldn't it be right next to the cemetery? Who the hell? Well, of course it would. There's a cemetery. It looks like a Zakk Wylde album cover. Black Label Society. Screenwriter John Davies has grown tired of living in London and moves to an old manor house in a sleepy West Wales village to get out of the rat race. At first, he enjoys himself, embracing the quieter place of life and starting a relationship with his beautiful neighbor, Cassie Conrad. Start dating your neighbor. One of you be moving sooner than later, probably. John discovers he is surrounded by a supernatural presence and begins to research the house's past, discovering secrets more terrible than he ever imagined. It is now up to John to right the injustices of the past and finally lay to rest the spirits which haunt the last house on Cemetery Lane. Last house on Cemetery Lane. On, by, same thing. Sounds good. Never watched it. Lord only knows when I will. Maybe I'll have a Last House marathon one day. Speaking of Last House on the left. I think that this is Wes Craven's first, like, big-time movie directing debut. I'm not 100% certain of that, but I believe it is. This is a really nice set. Arrow Steelbook. Got this. This is featured in an FYE Steelbook video I did probably 2 months or so ago. This movie's pretty cool. It's notoriously hard to watch, I guess is a good way to say it. It's got some pretty rough subject matter and content in it. I'm going to leave it at that. If you haven't seen that movie or this movie, check it out. It's definitely worth a watch. This ain't no Freddy Krueger movie, but it's pretty good. Ghostface ain't in it either. It's so much better than Scream. All right, next up, The Last House on the Left remake. I like this one a whole lot too. This one, wait a minute. This is not the remake. This is the same thing as this. All right, so this is just an old Blu-ray of the same thing that I just talked about. All right, never mind. Scratch that. This is The Last House on the Left remake. I liked this movie quite a bit, to be totally honest with you. One of the stars of this movie, the main antagonist in this movie, I don't even remember what the guy's name is, to be honest with you. It's that guy right there. That dude, if you can focus on him. He is one of the stars of Fear the Walking Dead, and he was also the husband on the Fox comedy show Raising Hope, and this is way different than Raising Hope. This dude was fantastic in this movie, and there's Jesse from Breaking Bad too. This movie was pretty cool. I enjoyed this quite a bit, to be totally honest with you. I like this movie a lot. Let me see. I'm trying to see that guy's name, and I don't see it. Nope. Not sure what his name is. They ain't gonna figure it out because there'll be a much longer area of dead space of me not talking if I do that. Longer than the one that I just had. Next up, Last Shift. Really creepy movie. This cop, it's her first shift at a police station, but it is the last shift of the police station. The police station is relocating, and she has the overnight shift. They're locking the doors forever in the morning. They're just relocating the precinct. And she has a run-in with some stuff. It's pretty good. A haunting masterclass in fear and dread. That writing's way too small. An atmospheric, claustrophobic, and thoroughly terrifying nightmare. One of the best supernatural thrillers in years. I agree. I thought this movie was very good. This chick was really good in it. I keep saying chick. They're not chicks. This girl, this woman, was very good in this movie. I thought that was very good. That was a blind buy for me. I bought that in Best Buy, not really knowing anything about it other than what I read on the back of the DVD. My eyes were better at that time, and I didn't have glasses with me either. It's good stuff. All right, Ron Perlman, James LaGrosse, and Connie Britton in The Last Winter. This is another blind buy. No, this one I got at Walmart. There's proof. A dark apocalyptic chiller, disorienting and creepy. In the pristine tundra of northern Alaska, winter is brutal. It's kind of what that's known for, that and crab fishing. But for one small team of oil scouts, this season is about to turn deadly. As an unseen evil stalks the isolated crew, nature's violent fury adds to the fear and torment. Horrifying visions in the snow close in, and they'll soon discover that not everything buried below the ice is resting in peace. Sounds actually really interesting. And I'm quite surprised I haven't watched that because it really does sound interesting. I dig it. I hear Ron Perlman now, and strangely, I used to hear that name and I would always think of Hellboy. I don't now. Now I think of Sons of Anarchy. Fantastic show if you haven't watched it. All right, moving on. Next up, John Frank Garrett's Last Word. I think I bought this at Dollar Tree for $1 sometime within the last year, and I definitely have not watched this. I Will Live in Your Nightmares, a vivid, unsettling thriller, a slow build terror that will leave you wanting to learn more. Based on an incredible true story, John Frank Garrett's Last Word is a terrifying tale of vengeance from beyond the grave. When a young man is executed for committing a murder for which he always maintained his innocence, he leaves behind a curse letter in which he promises to take vengeance on all those connected to his trial. It looks kind of like a gritty flick, which, to be honest with you, is like a guilty pleasure for me. I like those old, well, not even necessarily old, gritty-looking, low-budget films that just look filthy. I like those as long as they're well-made on a low budget and not poorly made on a low budget. I guess that whole thing was kind of unnecessary to say. I like good movies. So, budget or no budget, I like these. I guess what I'm trying to say is I know that there's a lot of people out there that say, you know, I don't want to watch B movies. I don't want to watch low budget movies. I only like stuff that's in theaters that I can get on Blu-ray and all that kind of stuff. I'm not that guy. If a movie's good, a movie's good, and that's the way I see it. Here's one that I know I've only watched one time, and it was a long time ago. The Lawnmower Man. Jeff Fahey and Pierce Brosnan. Oddly, I remember that Pierce Brosnan was in this movie. I don't know why, because I really don't remember a whole hell of a lot about this movie. Other than that dude, I kind of remember him. And I don't feel like reading all that. So, if that focuses, you can pause it and read it. I ain't reading it. It's based on a Stephen King writing, The Lawnmower Man. I know there's more movies. I think there's like 2 or 3 sequels to The Lawnmower Man. And I've never watched any of those. I don't remember being particularly nuts about this movie. And I'm pretty positive Stephen King had 0 involvement in the sequels. So, I definitely, if I didn't like that and Stephen King did write it, I don't think that I'd like the other ones. And the last one is The Lazarus Effect. Love that these stores put those stickers on these things. I'm going to have to hit that with like some goof off or olive oil or something. All right. This was actually pretty cool. Marc Duplass, Olivia Wilde. Marc Duplass. Olivia Wilde is, she's married to Jason Sudeikis from Saturday Night Live fame. She's cool. I like her well enough. But Marc Duplass, I dig that guy, and I'll tell you why in a second. A group of researchers led by Frank, Marc Duplass, and his fiancée Zoe, Olivia Wilde, have achieved the unthinkable, bringing the dead back to life. When Zoe is accidentally electrocuted in a horrific accident, Frank and his team use their experiment serum to resurrect her. Then weren't we taught not to do that kind of stuff in Pet Sematary with Gage? But their attempts go horribly wrong, unleashing terrifying powers with Zoe that put all their lives in grave danger. Apparently these people just didn't see that movie or the remake. Okay, Marc Duplass. This was cool, by the way. I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was good. It wasn't great, but I thought it was good. Marc Duplass. You want to see Marc Duplass in like a really kick-ass horror movie role? Go on Netflix or Shudder or Prime. I don't remember. It might be on one of those. It might be on all 3 of those. Who the hell knows? But in the world of the internet, you can find it. A movie called Creep. So perfectly titled. And he's the star of that movie. The movie primarily has, I think, 2 people in it. It may only have 2 people in it. I don't think anybody else really appears in that movie. Marc Duplass is your main antagonist in that movie, and he hires somebody else to film him, like to document. Marc Duplass's character says that he is dying wants this other dude to come in and film his final days and his decline, so that his, as creepy as this is, so that his son has a document of his father and he'll remember him. Mark Duplass's character is amazing in that movie. So if you want to watch a good movie with that dude, watch that. Not that. But that's okay too. All right, that's it for this week, or for this section of my collection. I'm getting out of here. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really like this video and you've been enjoying my content up to this point, please do me a huge personal favor. Click that subscribe button and ring that bell. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Have a kick-ass day. And thank you for watching, folks. See you on the next one. The hell am I so amped up for today?